অথবা সলিসিটর মাজেদুর চৌধুরীকে 0786-8758-944 নম্বরে 0786-8758-944 নম্বরে লিবার্টি লিগাল সলিসিটর 16 মার্চেবল রোড আতাবাড়ি পার্কের পাশে।
আমার পরিবার কতটা বড়?
Welcome to Your Money Matters Show, your weekly show with Ripon Ray. Yes, it's all about money. It's all about challenges that you face at home in your daily lives. So the question for you and for me is, what do we have for you today, this week, on Tuesday, between 5 and 6? Yes, we have guests, and yes, we have tips, and of course, yes, we have ideas. To help you now, today we'll be looking at, of course, your, as usual, tips of the week. And of course, we got guest Melanie Rochford, who is going to be talking to you about food banks and how do you get a support for food bank. Yes, it's Melanie Rochford. And of course, welcome to Your Money Matters Show. This is your weekly show on Radio Bangla, Better Bangla on YouTube, and of course, if you're struggling with money, here's your chance to get support and get help. So today, what do we have for you? Yes, we have support. Yes, we have ideas. And most important of all, yes, we have tips. So, what kind of tips do we have? Let's explore this again. Yes, the tips of the week, of course, is ways to save in retirement. So don't miss out on entitlements and special savings for over those who are 60s. So the question is, how do you save for retirement? First, look at insurance. You can make substantial saving on insurance by shopping around. An annual worldwide travel policy for a 65-year-old couple costs 3 times more with Saga than Holiday Safe, according to which the campaigner and the charity that is primarily focused on consumers' interest. Second, of course, transport. In Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, you can get a free bus pass at 60. In England, it's when you reach the female state pension age. Over 60s can buy a senior rail card, £30 a year, to get a third of train fares, and drivers can find the cheapest petrol at petrolprices.com. So insurance, transport, and let's now move to entitlements. If you're on a low income, you may be entitled to a range of benefits, including state pension top-ups, a council tax reduction up to £200 for winter fuel, and 25 for each 7-day period of very cold weather. And the period I mean between November and March. So let's move into another one, prescriptions and healthcare. For over 60s, you are entitled to free prescriptions and eye tests. Specsavers offers 25% off glasses on selected ranges. And if you're receiving a guaranteed credit part or pension credit, you will be entitled to free NHS dental care. And of course, most importantly, leisurely and leisure. Other parks include discounts on pub and carvery meals, tickets, and reduced English heritage, so including National Trust membership. So here we are on Tips of the Week. Now let's move to our guest, Melanie Rochford.
Hello.
Hi, Melanie.
Hi, Ripon.
So Melanie, I understand that you're from our local bank from Hackney.
That's right, yeah, based in Hoxton.
So what does a food bank actually do? What is it all about?
We started back in 2012 with one food bank in the Hackney area. Since then, now in 2018, we have 4 food banks across the borough. Essentially, what we're about is to give 3 days' worth of food for free to anyone who finds themselves in a food crisis. There are over 180 places, they're called referral agencies across the borough, they're basically institutions, organisations. It could be social workers. There are some police officers, some of the GP surgeries in the borough, some primary schools, children's centres. Any of these places which have been approved by us to issue food bank vouchers, when they meet someone, just in talking in their institutions, who clearly is finding it very hard to make ends meet, they're the people who can be issued a food bank voucher. They come along to one of our food banks. We have 4 every week. So 4 days of the week we have a food bank open in the Hackney Borough. The person who needs the food comes along with their food bank voucher.
Yep.
They produce it to volunteers. It's all run by volunteers at the food banks,
Right.
without any judgment whatsoever. That's really a core part of how we behave. We're not there to judge anyone who comes along in need. And we go through a list of food items with them
Yep.
to find out what their preferences are. Are they vegetarian? Do they
Yeah.
eat meat? Would they like fish, cereal? Are they gluten intolerant? And we put together for them bags of food that they
Right.
can then take away that should last them 3 days.
Right. So, I mean, let's say, for example, from your experience of the state of food bank, what are the causes? Why are we seeing just emergence of mushrooms and food banks in the country?
Yeah, no, it's really worrying. It's definitely growing significantly over the last few
Yeah.
years in particular, and it keeps on growing more and more steeply.
Yeah.
So benefit changes, benefit delays, when someone's maybe found a job but it's only
Yeah.
temporary, and then they
Yeah.
have to have their benefits recalculated because it was only maybe work for 1 or 2 months. Then they find themselves in a situation where they just don't have enough
Yeah.
cash in the bank to actually buy food
Yeah.
or to put money on the electric meter.
Yeah.
They have to choose a lot of the time whether they're going to heat their home
Yeah.
or eat.
Yeah.
Are they going to feed their children, or are they going to keep them warm?
Yeah.
So the basics of necessities of
Yeah.
life, really, people are having to choose. So it's benefits. It could be low income.
Yeah.
That's a real big issue for us. We're seeing they are the fastest growing group of people coming to food banks now is among those people who are on low incomes. So they
Yeah.
may have maybe 3 jobs to go to in a day,
Yeah.
but they're just still struggling to make ends meet, so they come to us.
So what do you mean? In work, still having difficulties?
Yes, we're
In
talking
work
about the
poverty.
working poor.
So based on your experience in times, let's say for example 2014 up until now, have you seen a dramatic kind of a change in pattern, or what's going on?
Well, the need in general has increased in across all groups, but we are starting to see more students who are struggling or having to stop their degrees in order to get rid of the debt, and they find themselves in food crisis.
Yeah.
Low incomes, as I say, that's a very fast-growing group.
Yeah.
And then just austerity measures in general. There are more and more people falling behind in payments and finding that they're in a huge debt crisis.
Yeah.
So they come to us because they're trying to write off the debt,
Yeah.
but they need help in managing their budget so that
Yeah.
they're not overpaying on the debt side and,
Yeah.
and leaving nothing left to actually sustain their own life necessities in the month.
So, I mean, let's say, for example, if someone is thinking of using a food bank, it doesn't matter where it is, East End, West End, London, whatever, what is the process of obtaining that support? What's the process?
So, depending on what their key problem is, we're very reliant on them, first of all, reaching out to whichever group could be helping them. So it could be a social worker
Yeah.
who's in their lives because of some kind of childcare issue.
Right.
But then they find that there's also a budgeting issue, there's a debt issue, then they can issue a food bank voucher. It could be someone with an addiction problem. They are a small group of the overall number of clients that come to see us. But again, we do have institutions such as the Hackney Recovery Service.
Right.
They can issue these people with a food bank voucher. It could be the probationary service. So maybe young men or women coming out of prison. What do they do for finances? So they need some help before they can get back into some form of stability and then start to find work. It could be at a children's centre. It could be a mother with a baby who is struggling, and one of the members of staff who has a good connection and therefore a sense of the mother might feel a trusting relationship with this person, may then reveal the difficulties, which it's really difficult, especially for parents with young children, because one of their biggest fears is, I don't want to share with people that I'm struggling, because what if my baby's taken away from me because I can't make ends meet?
Absolutely.
But there are so many organisations out there that are there to support these people, and the last thing they want to do is actually be taking anyone's children away from them. They're there to support people and find a better place for them.
So let's say they do come to your door, knock on your door, and obviously I suspect you assess them at first.
Well, that's done through those many referral agencies I just mentioned. So a typical one would be, say, Citizens Advice Bureau. So if someone's got a debt problem, they've gone to Citizens Advice on Mare Street, and there will be the discussion about, how you're doing for your finances. Right, let's take a look. Okay. So they will give them a lot of advice about what they can do to budget in a way that's going to get them over those hurdles, as well as issue them with a food bank voucher, and then they go to one of the 4 food banks we have in the borough. Right. So with the food bank voucher piece of paper, there is also attached to the back of that a list with all the addresses and opening times and which day is which food bank open. So it's quite clear and straightforward. Having said that, sometimes we have people in need who call us directly on the helpline, and we explain to them how the situation works, and then we may actually even help them find an agency that we think could best manage their problem for them, depending on what it is. And then we will put them in touch with that agency and take it from there.
So obviously you yourself could identify earlier on, even on the phone or in person. So let's say when we are here, when I'm here knocking on your door, you have given the vouchers and you've identified that I might need support elsewhere. So in what way will you be kind of direct me to other directions?
So that tends to happen at the actual food bank centre itself, where the volunteers, there's a certain informal welcoming. That's the key part of what we do, which is very typical of any food bank that's part of the Trussell Trust network. Is we make it a very informal cafe situation. So the clients, we call them clients, the people who come in with their food bank voucher, they produce their food bank voucher to one volunteer, then they're invited into the cafe area and offered a cup of tea or coffee, biscuits. They wait there while another volunteer comes along to then sit down with them and talk through their problems, and also produce a piece of paper which is a list of all the food items that they could choose that day. And then together they go through the food list, and the client checks off which items they would prefer to have. But during that discussion, the volunteer would also ask them, a bit more about what's brought them to the food bank today, and build up a rapport with zero judgment at all. It's all about trying to connect one human to another. Anyone could find themselves in this situation, and there's no stigma attached to it at all. We're there to try and give people back a sense of dignity.
Absolutely.
And then we try to find out what other issues might be going on, so that we can then signpost them to other organisations that would be the best fit to help address. Maybe it could be a mental health issue, or it could be a debt management organisation.
What do you mean by signposting?
Say again?
What do you mean by signposting?
So signposting, it's about the volunteers have a list of organisations, and they can flick through the list and look up whichever organisation, depending on the category of help that's needed, and then leave details with the client as to where else they could go for additional help.
So what would happen if the same person comes twice or thrice? Then what?
That's a big question, and it's caused a lot of
Obviously.
controversy because
Absolutely, of course.
we were originally there to help people in a food crisis, so
Absolutely.
meaning a short period of time,
Yes.
and people should get over the blip. But we realise it's longer than that. So the idea is that after the third voucher, if they've been given 3 vouchers in the space of 6 months, on our system, on our IT system,
Yeah.
we will see who those people are. And we will then contact the referral agency who referred that person on.
i.e.
Not to
CAB
say,
or whoever.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
to say, oh, this is terrible.
How dare
but
you.
really, it's about showing concern. Okay,
Right.
Mr. So-and-so
Yeah.
has been 3 times.
Yes.
Are all his needs being met?
Right.
What can we do together to make sure that he is able to access all the help he needs to get away from relying on a food bank?
How about if I was sanctioned? Obviously, it could happen. Then what?
We're not there to judge. So
Right.
if someone's sanctioned, and it's very easily, it happens very easily.
Absolutely, of course
You
it
miss an
does.
appointment,
Yeah.
bang.
Even though you've got a
sanctioned.
reasonable excuse.
Yeah. So we're not there to judge. We wouldn't turn people away. And actually, a number of people who go to, for example, the Citizens Advice
Yeah.
Bureau have been sanctioned.
Absolutely.
And the CAB, like all our other agencies, they know that that's not a reason to say, no, you can't have a food bank voucher. It would only be if they saw someone turning up over and over again who doesn't wish to engage with the organisations there that are there to help.
Right.
Then that's a more difficult discussion about explaining the food bank is not there as a way to sustain a certain lifestyle.
Right.
That's definitely not what it's there for, because at the end of the day, we rely heavily on the goodwill of the public, and we are guardians of food donations and financial donations, and we need to be absolutely sure that that is going to the people who are seeking, and it is the vast majority of people are exactly that. They are seeking to get to a better place. It's an absolute microscopic minority that might be tempted to think that this is a sustainable way of life, and that's where a more honest and direct discussion needs to take place, and we do have those sometimes, but it's most of the time people who are totally driven to get to a better place, and they need help.
So, what advice would you give to someone who is reluctant to knock on your door because of shame?
We would encourage them to reach out. It's a very humbling experience going into food banks and serving clients.
Yeah.
And we also see how very humble they are when they come to see us. And as I say before, it's not about judging at all. And I think the volunteers themselves get a lot out of it because they are connecting with other human beings, and it really is about wanting to help people. So please don't ever feel that there's a stigma or pride. I do hear that being said a lot. I shouldn't be here, and I'm so sorry that I have to come here. Please be assured we're not there to tut and point the finger. We just want to be able to help and give people hope and a sense of positivity, and that other human beings do care. We do really care, and we want people to find a happier, more sustainable place.
Well, that's perfect, but there is one more thing. Clearly, from your experience, you have noticed that welfare reform and other things have played a huge part in causing poverty. So if you had to see a drastic positive change, what sort of change would you want it? What would you want to see from the point of view of governments and states, for example?
Wow,
It's a big one. It's a very big one. Yeah, it is.
I mean, austerity measures have a lot to answer for.
Yeah.
They are really squeezing the most vulnerable in society, and inevitably a lot of those people in that situation develop mental health issues as well, and I'm sure I would too if I were in that situation. I think a big help, apart from improving the way, I think the austerity measures, if we could cut them, that would be amazing. I know it's not as simple as that, and we have to look at the hard economics, but I think looking at the hard economics, we really do need to look at what it is to pay a real living wage. Because if the biggest increase is among low-income families, then we need to look at how are companies paying the lower paid jobs. Is that truly sustainable? That's number one. And attached to that is rental prices. So that the whole housing crisis that we keep hearing about, we really do need to get on top of that. We need more affordable housing, more social housing. We do need a sensible program of housing development. And at the moment, even in Hackney, it's sad to see that a lot of the social housing that's being knocked down is being replaced by, on the whole, luxury flats.
Absolutely, tell me about it.
And I know that there's an economic argument for that, but ultimately it means that it's the poorest who are shipped out to live in some far-flung part of the country away from their family infrastructure, which they would so deeply depend on in order to go out and get a job if they do have a family to support. So we seriously need to look at housing and the way wages are paid.
So home and salary, and most of us know that we've been priced out anyway. At the moment, if you're homeless now, that's your start. So on that note, I must say, Melanie, thank you for sharing us your wisdom. Naturally, obviously, it is very helpful. But of course, callers and listeners, if you have any questions, how can they get in touch with you?
That's a good question.
Good,
They can contact me via Twitter.
Which the way I did with you.
Hackney, yes, you did. Hackney Foodback. Or via our Facebook page. That's always a very good one. So if you Google Hackney Foodbank, you will find various ways you can send us an inquiry through our website. You can contact us via Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. So yeah, there's a number of options.
So there we are. So we have what we have now is amazing Melanie showing us her wisdom. And of course, if you want to get in touch with her, it's Facebook, Twitter, and all the things. But of course, if you generally need a voucher, you have to go and explore all your agencies in your borough.
Yes, and if you're stuck as to which one, please do give us a call. You'll find all our details on our website.
There we are. On that note, listeners, we'll be taking a break and then get back to you shortly.
আমার পরিবার কতটা বড়? বাংলাদেশের নানি, তার সাথে 3 জন খালা, 22 জন মামাতো খালাতো ভাই বোন, বাড়ির কুকুর বাঘা, আর প্রতিবেশী বাংলাদেশে তারাও তো আত্মীয়। এই দাঁড়া, এ তো শুধু আম্মুর দিক। আব্বুর দিকে অস্ট্রেলিয়াতে ফুফু, চাচা ইটালিতে। মজার ব্যাপার হচ্ছে এরা সবাই আমার পকেটে। এবারা অলসো প্ল্যান 5 GB ডেটা। বাংলাদেশ ও 40 দেশে কথা বলার আনলিমিটেড মিনিট, আনলিমিটেড ইউকে কল, আর এই সব মাত্র 15 পাউন্ডে। libara.co.uk বা আপনার লোকাল স্টোর থেকে কিনুন।
Welcome back. You're on your Money Matters show again. You're with Ripon Ray. We have been talking about Melanie Rochford. Thank you, Melanie. Now, in the meantime, we need to move on to our next show. But before we do that, of course, I have a couple of tweets from a number of people. Actually, I thought I might want to share. Nathan Edwards from Ilford, who is 55. Currently, he states that the current welfare system is not working. If it did work, we would not be going to food banks. The country has gone all topsy-turvy. And we have Nadine Williams, 42 years old. She's saying, I'm very worried about my situation. Oh, bloody, she's worried about her own situation. When my work situation changes, I'm worried that there is no welfare state to help me. I'm definitely worried. Tom Robinson, 33 from Luton. Some people are not working hard enough. That's why they have to go to food banks. It is their fault. So before you go, Melanie, what are your thoughts on those tweets?
Wow, let me pick up on that last one
Yeah.
because that was the most controversial
It
one.
is typical Tom.
So, hello there. I was speaking with a client only yesterday, and this is quite typical. She is working as a cleaner,
Mhm.
and she is really struggling to find more hours. So she's tried absolutely everything she possibly can. Is very embarrassed about her situation and would love to have more work. So how to increase those hours? We are at the food bank. We're looking at, okay, let's brainstorm with this client. Let's not leave her out to dry and figure it out for herself. She has gone to many job interviews as well. She's been to the job centre. She's been to Opportunity Hub, which is also called Ways Into Work in Hackney. And they are a good organisation that seeks to put people seeking work up for job interviews. And she's been to many interviews and just cannot find more sustainable work. So in the meantime, while she's looking for that, and she is a trained hotelier, she is, it's not beneath her to do cleaning instead. So there are people like her out there who are trying their very hardest, but struggling to find enough hours to make ends meet. So I wouldn't say that they're not working hard enough. They are scratching around, desperately trying to find the work, and we are looking at other possibilities for her because we have a very good network in the community. So we will reach out and see if anybody does need more actually to take on a cleaner, but that's just piecemeal, bit by bit. But these people really have tried so many different ways, and the most important thing for them is to give them hope. And I think it would be wonderful if someone like is this Tom?
Tom Robinson, yes.
Tom, if they ever wanted to come to a food bank, but without any judgment, I think they would realise just how the reality is. And if they could look into the eyes of the people coming to see us, they would see very pained, tortured souls who don't come at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
They really don't. They are extremely embarrassed to be there. And it's quite a job sometimes to get them to open up and talk about their situation. But the minute they feel that they're not being judged, they truly do open up, and then you can see exactly what's going on in their lives. And it's a very humbling experience.
So how about Nadine? Nadine, she seems to be very worried about her personal situation because she feels she's not being supported by the state. So what can she do?
This is a difficult one. It's let's have a look at her specific situation, because there's not an awful lot of
there isn't, is there?
information there for me to comment in a very useful way.
Well, I
so
suppose,
when my work situation changes, I'm worried that there is no welfare state to help me. I'm tempted to think, is Nadine worried that one day the welfare system won't actually exist?
That could be one. Or how about, let's say, if her income fluctuates, then what? What can you do?
I think this would probably be best.
So there we are.
Sabrina
So now,
to answer.
in this case, we also have in the studio Sabrina Dubash, who's a welfare rights specialist. So Sabrina, so here we are, Nadine, who's very worried about the situation. Her work fluctuates, and she's generally is worried. So what advice would you give to her?
Hi, Ripon. Yeah, I mean, that is quite a typical situation. A lot of people are on these days, particularly with, I think Melanie has quite rightly mentioned in her piece as well about low incomes and 0-hour contracts, I would say. So with that, where your work fluctuates, 1 week you'll get a certain amount, or let's say 1 month, you might get a relatively good wage, but then the next month it'll be very much lower. And when Nadine is worried about the welfare state, then of course, if it seems like somebody who's not ever been on the benefit system before, then obviously the new benefit that is being rolled out now across the UK is universal credit. And I know you've touched on this report a few times in your show. That is probably one of the pros of universal credit is that those people on a fluctuating income, if there's a month where you're not earning as much, it will top it up. So you will receive, depending on the household, of course, each person is different. You get a standard allowance, you'll get housing costs, and if you have children, you'll get the child elements. And then when you're working, there's something called the work earning taper rule. Sounds a bit complex, but really what it is, they'll deduct from your monthly wage £192, and then from the remaining amount, 63 pence of every pound you earn is deducted from the overall amount. So that's where it shows where you're earning more will be deducted from your benefit, from your monthly universal credit amount, and where you're earning less will be deducted. So for someone like Nadine, universal credit is probably a good option.
Okay, well, now, do we have anything for Nathan? Obviously, he's kind of like, he's kind of saying the system currently isn't working, so the country has gone topsy-turvy. So really, the answer is no, is it? I mean, obviously, if it's like that. Well, on that note, it's time for us to move on to our next part of the show, and that is about how to prepare for a wedding. And, of course, we have Sabrina again to help us out on the topic. Sabrina, would you like to come over here for us? Yes. And of course, I would like to thank Melanie, absolutely, for taking part. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you. But of course, while Sabrina gets organised, let's listen to what members of the public think when it comes to wedding and what does it entail in preparing for a wedding.
When they're having a wedding, will be whether the food will be what the guests will enjoy, whether the weather will hold out, whether all the guests will turn up, and lastly probably whether they will be well in themselves to attend the wedding themselves.
But I've not been to many weddings, but if that was me preparing for a wedding, I think I'd be anxious, excited, thinking about the wedding list, thinking about expenditure, and thinking about whether it will go right, and thinking about the holiday destination after the wedding.
Looking to plan a wedding, number one is agreeing on what kind of wedding both people want. Whether it's going to be a church wedding, whether it's going to be a wedding at the mosque, whether it's going to be a wedding away, a location wedding, whether we're going to have one at home, whether it's going to involve going to the registrar and just having eat at the local pub, or whether you're going to pay for a full-on sit-down meal, which often costs anything between £40 and £70 per person, and then how many people would you like there? And also in terms of what people understand what a marriage involves.
One, the layout. Two, the ideal place. And flowers, food.
There we are. So we've heard what members of the public think when it comes to preparing for a wedding. But of course, we're Sabrina Dubash, whose brother just got married recently. And
That's right,
yes,
yes.
so obviously you are fully informed in terms of what entails for preparing for a wedding. So what do we need?
Well, I mean, yes, my brother got married just 2 weeks ago, but I can't really say I was involved in much of the preparation. But yeah, it's true. It is full swing now in wedding season, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
You know, whilst your wedding is supposed to be the happiest day of your life, it's likely to be the most expensive 24 hours.
Tell me about it.
Exactly. Now, so I got some statistics for you, Ripon. I know you like them.
Absolutely, of course.
The average cost of a UK wedding has hit a all-time high of £27,161.
So we're all getting married, or what?
So, exactly. Now, that is a survey that Hitch, the wedding website, conducted. But also, you know, I'm going to compare as well, because you know, we're in East London. There's a lot of Asian people here.
Yeah.
And let's just talk about the cost of an Asian wedding.
Okay, go ahead.
The average cost of an Asian wedding can be upwards of £50,000. Now look,
Ridiculous.
that is almost double the cost of a sort of English wedding
Oh, tell me about it.
or sort of wedding here.
Yeah.
Now, so where do all these costs lie?
Yeah.
So obviously, a proposal, when you decide you found that right person, the engagement ring, the average cost of the engagement ring is about £2,000 to £3,000 now.
Ridiculous again. Go on,
Then
carry on.
don't forget, because there's gold in there, it could be platinum, it could be, you know, diamonds.
Yeah.
These are all elements of cost.
Yeah.
Then you've got venue hire,
Yep.
which the average cost is actually £4,354 for an average venue hire. Then, of course, I think one of the highest is the catering, the food.
Yeah.
And I think one of your, you know, the exits of people commenting there about what kind of food do you want? Do you want, like they said, you know, just go to a restaurant afterwards? Do you want to have a buffet?
Yep.
Do you want to have a sit-down meal? And also some people opting actually to hire a venue, but they do their own food. A lot of people are doing that. Then, of course, is the honeymoon afterwards,
Right, okay.
which is an average of £4,000 pounds plus, really, depending on where you're going.
Okay.
So, what are the added costs for an Asian wedding? Right. It probably would be, first of all, the number of events that you would typically have. So we're talking, of course, in sort of not just for Hindu, Sikh wedding, Muslim weddings. You'd usually have, before the actual wedding itself, it's a bit like you have a hen do and a stag do, but they call them the mendi or the hulu.
Right.
So you'd have one for the groom to be and one for the bride to be. That is
Right.
two parties, there we go. And they can be, you know, some people hire a venue for this. Then you've got the wedding itself. And then after that, which is the wedding itself is one ceremony
Yep.
and a party usually as well. Then after that, it's the reception, which is
Right.
called the walima.
So
And
3 events.
Four, altogether that's
four,
four,
okay,
yeah.
4.
And I'll be talking about how we can reduce them down in a sec.
Yeah.
So that's why Asian wedding will cost a lot, first of all.
Bloody hell, you'll be bankrupt at the end.
I think, yeah, this is the thing. And the number of guests is also quite stark. So average sort of wedding would be 100 people max, I think, in the sort of typical sort of English wedding.
Right.
Some people have much smaller weddings also. But for an Asian wedding, you'll find that 100 is a minimum, and you'll
Right.
find guests 100 to 300 people.
Right.
So that is where you are seeing the massive sort of £20,000 more expensive wedding for Asian wedding.
Yeah.
Where can we save? I hear you
Where
asking,
can we,
Ripon.
obviously saving, the show is all
All
about
about
saving money,
saving.
not spending, please.
Where can we save? Right.
Yes.
So I've just done
Yes.
some just brief research
Go ahead.
here. So it'd be
Okay.
nice to see what you guys think, and also the public think of ideas where you can save. I think starting with the engagement ring when you're proposing, we've said they cost about £2,000 to £3,000 for a new one. I think you'll find that a lot of people, I mean, even Harry did this. It's a really nice gesture to perhaps, you might have a ring from your mother or grandmother, and adapting that perhaps. You know, you may find that even adapting the ring can be almost the same price as a new one. So obviously you have to compare. But sometimes giving a ring, passing it down to your future bride can be a really nice sentimental gesture.
So another word, don't buy it, but use the old one.
You use an old one. I mean,
Perfect.
Harry
Yes,
did that. I think he
yes.
adjusted a diamond
Yeah.
from Princess Diana. And I think
Recycling, yes.
Exactly.
Melanie, she's still in the studio. If you want to chip in, please do so.
yes, please do.
Yes.
I definitely think that is one way to save.
Yeah.
Then we've got the invite. You know, you want people to come. I think
Obviously, the guest and
the guest.
whoever not, yes.
I think one of the threads of all weddings,
Yeah.
everyone wants all their friends, families, loved ones
Yeah.
to be in the same place. And really, you have to invite people, don't you?
Without,
So you
without
need-
them, there is no wedding, I suppose.
Yeah. So you need wedding invites.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to invites,
Yeah.
people, I think, the traditional way is to obviously get some invites made, and if you are going down that, now when we are talking about Asian weddings, lucky enough to have family who are, living abroad, say in Bangladesh,
Yeah.
India, Pakistan, and if they happen to be coming over to Britain, you may want to think actually about having a look what designs are there and buying the batch from abroad, because you will find you'll get some beautiful invites,
Mm-hmm.
and at the fraction of the cost of the UK. Some invites there just 50 pence.
You mean the card itself, the thing that you send?
The actual card,
Oh,
Ripon.
okay.
You know, some cards are costing between, you know, some will start, you know, if it's very simple card, 50
Yeah.
pence, but can range up to £4 or £5. I've
Right.
seen £10 an invite.
So what are you saying? Is Bangladesh is cheaper than China? What are you saying?
Well, yeah, it really is, Ripon. You can get the wedding invites
Perfect.
much cheaper there. For example,
Good.
what would cost £3 an invite
Yeah.
here would cost 50 pence an invite. So if you are lucky enough to have family that are coming
Yeah.
over, that is just an idea and an option.
So what do you mean? All the cars, they'll put it in their luggage and they bring it over here?
That's right. If you're lucky enough to have people
That's
that will
not
give
bad,
you the
actually.
luggage
I've not thought
space.
about that. That's very
Because yes,
nice.
I've got a lot of friends actually
Yeah.
and family. They did the exact same thing.
Nice.
But obviously they've got family travelling over.
Yeah, so if
because
you've
you're
got family-
saving, you know, wants to spend about £300-400 on invites when you can spend £100?
Yeah.
And especially when we're talking 200 to 300 people for an Asian wedding. If we're talking 100 people, the
Yeah.
cost would be lower.
Mhm.
That's just an idea.
Yeah.
The
Idea,
other-
by the way.
Yeah.
Mm.
The other options are, a lot of people now are just creating a website. If you're able and sort of tech savvy, you can create a website, and your guests, if they are also able to, you know, be able to use the computers, etc., they can RSVP via their website as well.
So you
Some
mean
people
like a
using
s-
a combo.
What do you mean like sending an email saying, here's an invite, rather than sending a card?
Yeah, send a
Right.
e-invite, I guess. Please
E-invite.
go to our website and
Yeah.
RSVP there. That is also the cheapest.
But of course, if your gran can't use the computer or aunt can't be bothered with it, then obviously things are quite different. So that might not be there, but the option is there. Let's be frank. One is what's more? Go on.
Okay, so the option is
Okay.
there. Then we were just talking about the number of parties in an Asian wedding.
Yeah.
Now, like I was mentioning, you know, you can really reduce them. I mean, you can. For the Mendi, for example.
Yeah.
You don't have to have one for the groom and one for the bride. Why not? If you need to do one and you want to do one, just combine them and do one.
But isn't there like a I don't know, cultural thing where you're meant to be doing it in a separate way because she hasn't moved from like her mum's place to her husband's place or something? Isn't there those things?
They may be. I mean, to be honest, I mean,
Yeah.
the Menthi and the Huluts,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Islamically, all of these parties, you don't actually have to do any of these parties.
Yeah.
These, I think, have come from Indian culture and
Right, okay.
Hinduism and possibly Sikhism as well. And if you want to do them, of course, you know, it's fine. But if you are looking to save, combine them. Because nowadays, you do a Mendi in a, you know, you might do it in a community hall. Some people also hire hotel venues. But that, you know, that is a high cost.
It is.
And it's not even the actual wedding day. So just think about that.
Okay.
Or eliminate it totally altogether. I mean, for my brother's wedding, we haven't had a Mendi, and we're just having the wedding and the walima.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
So you don't have to follow the whole set rules.
You don't have to.
Fine.
You don't have to at all.
What else? Tell
So,
me.
that's the number of the parties. And then we've got...
Well, then
okay.
how about the event itself? The,
The event,
venue.
yeah.
The venue. I mean, do you need to have it on Saturday? Apparently Saturday is the most expensive
It is.
day to do
That's
it.
right. I mean, when you're planning the wedding, you know, some people prefer a summer wedding, but let's be honest, this summer we've had great weather. Sometimes May looks like October, doesn't it, in the UK? So if you can wait, you could have your wedding in the non-peak season
Right.
of the autumn months. I think Christmas time is actually still quite popular time of the year as well. Of course, summer, everything's going to be higher priced, peak time.
Yeah.
Obviously, think about that. If you are able to plan as well, I mean, I think the average wedding takes a year to plan. The more you plan in advance, the cheaper the more time you got to look around for the best deals. So you will be able to save. But if it's a last minute wedding, you may not have this opportunity. That's the thing. But I think if you are looking to save and budget, just take that time and plan, really. There's no rush.
So what else have you got for us?
Okay, so when we look at catering,
Food, bloody hell.
food.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's one of the, well, for me, it's one of the most important parts of the wedding. I
It
think
is, I
people come
suppose.
away and it's the food they remember.
Yeah.
But,
That's fine.
there are so many options now. I guess it's depending on where you hold the wedding itself.
Yeah.
Some venues, if you have, for example, a church or a mosque wedding,
Yeah.
afterwards the reception doesn't have to be held in a hotel. Some people are holding them in large restaurants
Mhm.
where the option might be a buffet option.
Yeah.
Some people, like I mentioned, they may choose to hire a community centre
Yeah.
and actually do their own food. That involves a lot of hard work, but if you plan, you will save ultimately that
Would
way.
anyone have their wedding in their house?
Yes, they would actually, and I think that is an option. For example, with all of these parties I
Yeah.
mentioned, you could do it in your house. The mehndi,
Mhm.
the actual wedding. So for Islamic wedding, the
Yeah.
nikah,
Mhm.
where an imam will come to your house and bless the couple, that can happen. That usually happens in the bride's house.
Right. Okay.
So that will save the cost of that.
Mhm.
And then, of course, if you want to have a party, depending on how big your house is and how many guests,
Yeah.
you can do it. And I think it will save that 4,000 average cost of a venue hire. But of course, you are, you have to think about the logistics of it, your space and everything.
Yeah.
If you're going to have it in the garden with a marquee.
Mhm.
Talking about marquees, another saving tip.
Go ahead.
A lot of hotels, if you are looking to hire a sort of one of the rooms in the hotel or
Yeah.
a hall,
Yeah.
that cost can be very high. But if you are looking to hire or put up a marquee in the grounds of a hotel, it can be remarkably cheaper.
Mhm.
It's a lot cheaper, but weather permitting, I guess, they can be really nice on a sunny day, and therefore it would be worth the save. But just think, if it is raining, they're waterproof, so I can't see major problem. But some people may have that preference.
Right. Well, then you mentioned, how about this cake thing? We all go
Cake.
rampage for cakes. The dessert cake, the main cake, the
wedding
wedding cake.
Now, oh my God.
Yes.
Well,
Tell me about that.
I'm looking for, my mother is looking for a wedding cake at the moment for my older brother's reception.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I was absolutely shocked. Will you just guess, Ripon, how much a wedding cake costs?
Well, look, I'm quite stingy. So obviously you're asking the wrong guy. But I would have a guess.
Guess.
I would say, look, let's be generous. £50.
Well, right. £50.
Yeah.
£50 I think is, sort of a square
Oh, no.
slab. I think that can serve about 50 people. If you're looking for a wedding cake,
Yeah.
I was looking, and my family have been researching this. £300 is the average cost of a wedding cake.
Ridiculous.
300. I mean, some cakes are, especially with
Oh,
3
God,
tiers.
yeah.
If you're going 4 tiers or 5 tiers, you're looking
Yeah.
at £600 to £700. Now that really is extortionate, I would say. But
course it is.
people who have that budget will do that.
Mm.
But if you are looking to save, just really ask your local bakeries as well. Local bakeries. I think some shops like M&S.
Well, actually,
M&S
I've
do
got
it.
another one. If you have a friend like Nadia on BBC,
That's a great point. Yes.
that is it.
See if she can make you a wedding cake for free.
Where is your Nadia? We need a Nadia.
We all need to know Nadia.
There we go. Yes, we need a Nadia type of friend who loves baking
Yeah.
all day. That's it.
And that's a good point there, because you don't have to actually buy your wedding cake. I mean, some
Yeah.
people are quite good bakers, and if you have some family or friend that are quite good at baking, they could make an absolutely beautiful cake.
yeah.
And you never know, they might not even charge you, but they might. But it would be much cheaper.
So do you have anything
So-
else for us?
Yeah, I was just touching back really on the catering. It's really thinking about if you are having it in a hotel or a venue. You need to discuss, of course, with the caterers your offer. It's your starter, your main, and your dessert.
Yeah.
Some people are adding various courses to that.
Mhm.
Are you having drinks and canapes
Yeah.
beforehand? Look into this. Look into the cost as well. Also, look into, you can have those elements of the meal, but if you want to keep costs down, think about what kind of meat are you serving? What kind, if you are looking for the main meal, if you're, cooking sort of lobster, prawns, you are going to have that
Obviously, that's
cost
expensive,
increase.
no doubt.
But if you go for something like chicken as the main course, you can find it might be a bit lower. And also, don't forget to cater for vegetarians as well.
Okay.
And there the cost can be cheaper. But I think look at per head. When you look per head, you are looking at about £25 to £50 per head, depending on what, where you are looking,
Right.
really. I mean, it all depends. And therefore, the more people you have, the
I mean,
more expensive it's going to be for catering.
Is there any way, this sounds a bit silly, but is there any way you can actually cook at home and take it there?
Well, yeah, exactly. If
I know
you,
I'm being really, really nasty, aren't I?
No, not at all. I think a lot of people you find, you
Yeah.
know, for their receptions,
Yeah.
they might have a big cookout, and if it's held in their house,
Yeah.
if it's held in a community centre, you're just doing a dry hire of the venue.
Yeah.
You can then put your own table, set your own buffet out,
Yeah.
and actually, a lot of people do that. And you know what? It brings family and communities together sometimes this way, and that can be a great option as well. It's not that you have to go to a hotel or a
Yeah.
high-end place for sit-down service all the time. I think that's really important to think about, really.
Yeah. Anything else?
There's things you have to think about. I mean, regardless of your budget, you know, some people it's a really expensive occasion, but the reason why we save for it is because it's supposed to be the happiest day of your life, very special occasion. If you're paying for something for a wedding right now, you may want to think about a wedding loan. Now,
What's that? What do you mean loan? Like,
well,
go to
this
the
is
bank
a
and filling in a form saying, I want some loan?
well, yeah, it's like a personal
Okay.
loan. But
Alright,
when
okay.
I briefly looked, and this is all just
Yeah, yeah.
according to moneysupermarket.com,
Oh, Moneysupermarket.
you know, loans for weddings, if they're between £7,500 and £15,000, you get an interest rate of 5%, which, you know, is a relatively good rate, but
Is that monthly or annually?
I think that's annually. But if you're looking to borrow between under 7.5 and over 15,000, you are looking at sort of higher interest rates. So do the comparisons and do get, you know, advice beforehand if you do need a loan.
Yeah.
Also, wedding insurance. A lot of people forget about that.
How does that work?
If anything, you know, you put down a deposit for the hotel and the event company. You've, you know, bought. Arrange, like I said, the cake and everything,
Yeah.
all costs a lot. And if
Yeah.
one of those companies, it does happen, some companies go bankrupt. Hotels, you know, they might have some kind of a disaster where they can't cater for that day. And, you know, a lot of the time, I mean, if you look for the catering contract,
Yeah.
they will say that once you pay the full amount, there are no refunds. And actually, you do need wedding insurance for that.
So when would you claim it if something goes wrong? Is it after the devastation or what?
Well, yes, of course, because you wouldn't need to claim.
Oh,
you wouldn't need to
God.
claim the insurance.
But it's
just
over
for-
then, isn't it? But would they not say something like, hang on a second, there's a clause that says you can't.
Obviously, you know, as with everything, you know, when
Yeah.
you're looking at shopping for wedding
Obviously.
insurance, I think you can get wedding insurance from, you know,
Yeah.
your John Lewis, Debenhams, and also you can compare actually
Yeah.
for wedding insurance.
Do you think they'll say something like, oh, if you actually use the insurance now, you might not be able to use it for your next wedding?
I think you've got to get, I think it's for a
Right.
certain period of time, the
Okay,
insurance.
alright.
Obviously, if you've got another event, you
Yeah.
have to pay, because you have to give them a value for the event. So you were including your, you know, we haven't spoken about decorations. Decorations.
What about decorations?
Yeah, decorations, DJ, if you want to, these are all added
Yeah.
expenses. If you're having entertainment, these are all things to consider and, you know, to include in your wedding insurance.
Well, Melanie, obviously you are still in the studio and I can see you nodding and oh yeah, so do you have any other tips to add on to our wedding topic?
I think we need to know about wedding dress as well.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's a
tell me
very
about that.
vital
Yes,
point.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
That's a very vital point. Do you have anything? Do you have any experience of?
No, okay.
Well,
Go
with
ahead.
wedding dresses, vital point. Of course, we're talking about the clothing because it's not just the bride; it's the family. So of course, I mean, I think the average sort of white wedding dress can range, can't it, from 1,000 to 10,000 and more. Obviously, I mean, can you remember? I don't know if you can remember how much Meghan's wedding dress was, but that's obviously a designer and sort of out there. But for Asian wedding dresses as well, I mean, I actually went wedding dress shopping last weekend, Ripon. And, you know, the costs really, because of for Asian wedding dresses, the embellishments, the work, they're all hand embroidered. Often they're made abroad. They can range, you know, 2,000 plus. So it's something to think about. Again, it's all part of the saving, really, all part
Yeah.
of the budgeting.
Absolutely.
And for men, obviously, if you're opting for the suit,
Yeah.
that, you know, that can be well, it depends on where you're buying the suit, from 200s plus. An Asian outfit for men, they also, if you are wearing a sherwani, they can cost a fair bit too. I mean, obviously the ring would be the highest expense, but then obviously you've got the outfits as well.
Well,
It's just a very expensive affair, isn't it?
it seems to me, but it looks like I've got a couple of tweets to share with all of you. Shalina Rahman from Tower Hamlets, actually, she's 24. She got she's saying I'll get married once. It is important to make it memorable for me. I don't want to come across too stingy either.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and Sophia Alam, she's 29. I would prefer to have a very quiet wedding. I would prefer to pay for my deposit for my mortgage.
Yeah.
Look at that. If we love each other, it's not the amount of money you spend on the day, but what happens after. I think Sophia, she's got it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like Sophia.
I mean, that is true.
Yeah, I actually like Sophia. And then we've got Robert Anderson, 56, from Hackney, actually. He got Hackney. He says, I just won't marry at all because I had enough of weddings.
Yeah.
So there we are. So any thoughts on?
Is this marriage or mortgage there? And I think the point to note, apart from all these, whether it's an Asian wedding or, or not, I mean, really, it's a case of if you are religious and having sort of a Christian wedding or a Muslim wedding or whatever religion, usually you'd have the religious sort of priest or imam coming to bless the couple. And actually, if we're looking at Islamic weddings, the costs actually are very minimum. You'll have an imam to bless it. There is obviously a token with a ring, and you have a payment called a meher, and that's it. And really, we don't have to have any party. So if someone like Sophia is looking just to have a low-key one to save, yeah, she could have a low-key wedding with a limited amount of family and friends. I don't think at all that would mean that you're stingy. I think it means that you are planning for the future.
Thank you, Sabrina, and thank you, Melanie. On that note, it is time for us to say goodbye. Listeners, thank you for listening on Your Money Matters. Of course, we had Melanie and also we had Sabrina on the show giving you tips and really informing you in terms of what's happening in the world of money and, of course, in the world of struggle. Hope you found the show useful. And, of course, next week, we'll be talking about homelessness and money issue. And, of course, for those who are thinking of bringing a claim against a bank, we have PPI claims. We'll be talking about all those things. So on that note, are we saying goodbye to you?
There we go. Oh, God.
Is that a sign? Is that a sign that we need to go? Subtle sign.
Was that okay then?
Was that all right?
Yours was excellent, obviously, but I had to talk about wedding budgeting. I have no idea about